about a seven is to create about a 7-mile trail that starts approximately around the aquatic center and goes all the way down to the Y at 502. We wanted to create some national interscholastic cycling association loops. This is a youth organization that has about 50 members in our community, but they don't have anywhere to practice, and they have to go outside of the area to compete. So we'd like to try to do something with them. This is also looking at a multimodal trail that would connect approximately around the golf course at Santa I, across the canyon and come up around the aquatic center or where the urban trail is going to come out. So that if you lived in North Mesa or Bronco Mesa, you could get to town without having to fight traffic on Diamond Drive or have to have a road map. And then it also looks at an equestrian trail behind the stables down into Bio Canyon. That'll be part of this conversation as well. And then we may be able to do some additional trails in there. And then we're also looking for feedback on a skills park, specifically for mountain bike skills park that would be in a couple of locations near the aquatic center, which Claudia will show you in just a minute. So what we'll do is I'm going to turn this over to Claudia and Patrick. They'll give us a brief, rough picture of kind of what they've seen so far, and then we'll open it up to your comments, concerns, inputs, and thoughts. Again, this is pretty much fixated in Pueblo Canyon because it's really the only option we have right now that's on county-owned land. So that's why we're focusing in this area. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Claudia and Patrick, and let's have some fun.
Thanks, Corey. And thanks to everybody for being here tonight. We've had some great feedback in our other public meeting sessions, so we look forward to hearing your comments and feedback. And I guess just so that everybody is aware, we're starting this out. This is just pretty much a listening session where we've just started this project. So I'm going to just quickly introduce our team. Patrick and I are from Design Office, which is a small landscape architecture and planning firm in Santa Fe. We've done a number of trail projects throughout the region. So we're interested in working on this one because you have some very nice trails and amazing context. We've got Tony Boone Trails is our specific trail planner. He's got a wealth of experience. He's done over 635 miles of trails, both from a construction standpoint and has experience managing on the administrative side for the city of Boulder. So he's got he has worn both hats and knows trails from a construction and a maintenance standpoint, and is very interested in making sure that all trails that go in are sustainably designed and implemented. We've got Chinook Landscape Architecture on our team too. This is a new thing that we're trying. He's done some drone mapping, so we've got some very good data that's 3-dimensional of existing conditions in Pueblo Canyon, so that we can do some detailed design of the bike skills park areas in particular. That mapping was done in November or at the end of November around Thanksgiving, before we started to make it in before the weather hit. And then we've got McGill Trails. They're also based out of Colorado. They do both skills park design and construction. So we feel like our team has got that ability to look at this from a planning standpoint and a construction standpoint. We, as Corey mentioned, I think he went over the scope of the 7 Mile Trail, the Bike Skills Park, the NICA routes, and the connector trails that we're going to be looking at. In particular, this focus really is on more of blue-green and, in other words, like beginner introductory level trails, so that that portion of the community is able to easily begin this sport of mountain biking and hiking in a more friendly environment for them. So youth is also another, obviously the beginner intermediate is geared towards them, but in particular the NICA routes and the Bike Skills Park is focusing on youth, so that there are opportunities for them as part of this project and in Los Alamos County. So what our purpose is for this project is to come up with conceptual routes and layouts. They are not final. It's not for construction. We are looking at the estimated cost for each of those so that it's clear what the cost could be, so that the community can and the county can prioritize the projects as they so it can move forward towards implementation. We're looking at what sorts of amenities might be useful to have that are associated with these various improvements. So that's something we want feedback on from you. And then we're going to be providing maintenance recommendations, both short and long term, for these various improvements. Like I mentioned, we went out there in November, and our team did, and I'm going to share quickly this second. I'm going to share this site analysis map that we put together. So this is a slope analysis map. If you can see my cursor, the 7 Mile Trail is connecting here from the Aquatic Center. We looked at the Rim Trail as a potential route, but our team decided that it was while the trail itself is nice and gentle, just the way it drops so precipitously down into the canyon makes it not a great choice for a blue-green trail. So our recommendation is that we, from the Aquatic Center, drop down into Acid Canyon, and as much as possible, use or reuse existing trails and connect down into the canyon area over to the Y. We looked at locations for the Bike Skills Park. So the primary location for Bike Skills makes the most sense down below, like behind the Aquatic Center, just north of Kinnick Park, in that lower shelf area. So the polygon, you probably can't see this. I'm gonna zoom in on it here. The polygon for the Bike Skills Park is just the area that we're investigating. Most likely the footprint is just going to be one small section of that. So as part of our effort to come up with a conceptual design, we're going to be looking at the exact extents of that, what's needed. So we'll be coming back to you with a proposal that shows kind of how that might fit in. We're also aware that you can see the pink area here. That's the spotted owl habitat. So we want to make sure that we're keeping not only out of that area, but keeping a buffer so that we're not encroaching or disturbing that area with the Bike Skills Park. Another location that we're looking at, because this has been disturbed, is this area off of Orange Street. And so this might house a few locations, or might be a good location for a few features that satisfy the Bike Skills requirements for for youth in Los Alamos County. So those are those two areas. As far as the NICA routes, when we were doing our assessment and data collection of existing conditions, it seemed like the best location for the NICA routes was over, I'll let this settle here, was over closer to the Y, where people could come in on the county road that leads to the waste treatment plant. Part of the NICA route is to have a staging area with parking, with events set up, with staging. In some cases, there's camping associated with it. So all of that requires a little bit of a bigger footprint. And so one of the areas that we're looking at is over here at the base of, or close to the base of the canyon, close to the Y, where the loops would be, the NICA loops would use, for the most part, existing trails, but some new trails, and also the roadway that extends into the canyon. So that was kind of our takeaway from the analysis that we have done. I'm going to just briefly go over sort of our schedule. We're doing the focus group input now. So this is really, like I mentioned, a listening session just to find out what your kind of concerns and desires are. Our Bike Skills Park consultant is going to be on site sometime in early February to look in greater detail at the bike skills area and come up with some conceptual designs. We're intending on having a public meeting sometime in March to present the conceptual designs and get your feedback on actual conceptual alignments and designs, and have a draft plan put together in April. So that's our sort of the bigger picture. At this point, I think what's worked well in the past meetings, this meeting is being recorded, and there will be a transcript from this meeting. Los Alamos County is taking care of that. And so we'd like for you to both use the chat room to make your statements and ask your questions. If you can also just, if you would like to make a comment or have a question, using the raise your hand as part of the reactions has worked really well, so that we can be respectful and call on people as they have questions. We also have at the very end, if you're interested in participating or in or providing feedback on the Skills Park survey, we've got a survey that we can send to you to give us your input on that particular part of the design. So with that, I am going to just open it up to the floor, and we welcome your input and comments. Thank you.
All right, Robert, I got you first and then Morgan.
Just a couple of observations. Two thoughts that go through my mind. One is, as you're going down Pueblo Canyon toward the water filtration area, you have some rather dramatic rock formations. I'll call them tent rocks. And all I can do is bring up the question is, will the trail possibly have any impact on those tent rocks for their geology, sides being worn away or whatever? So it's just a question. The second question also relates to, as you're getting toward the lower end of Pueblo Canyon, if you know where to be going, there are cliff dwellings, very much like at Bandelier. And is there any possibility that the bike route might inadvertently open up the cliff dwellings for kids to be messing around in? Just two questions. Thanks,
Robert. I'm going to try to answer those. for the rock features, that's something that as we're trying to do the least amount of disturbance as possible with this trail. So we'll be looking at trying to preserve, it is a very narrow trail, so it's only a like 18-inch, 24-inch max trail. So it's not, I think we can work around the features. We know that there are archaeological sites within the canyon, so we will be avoiding those. And as you're probably aware, anything that gets done has to go through SHPO so that they can approve whatever the proposal is before it's implemented.
Good.
Okay, Morgan?
So on the idea of a connecting trail from North Mesa to downtown, at least to my knowledge, that very much already exists. I used to walk to middle school on that trail. I live over on Orange Street, and I'd go down the canyon and use that trail. It has, especially if you go through Pueblo Canyon, it's got very dramatic elevation changes that I think is one of the reasons most people don't use it. And those kind of can't really be overcome. If there's a way to get more people to use it, I'd love it. I don't know how much you can improve on what's already there, though. It's just my comment on that. Also, on the archaeological sites that were just mentioned, I'm pretty sure, based on my past experience, those are actually those are behind a fence that says San Ildefonso Pueblo, no trespassing. So there is that, but it would indeed draw more attention to them. They're pretty easy to see from even the road that's already there.
Thank you. Cheryl? And then Bruce. Cheryl, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Muted.
People hear me now? This is not Cheryl, this is Larry Tickner, but it shows up as Cheryl.
Okay. Go
So
ahead.
I can't get away from her. But I have 3 comments. One is, this seems like deja vu all over again. The feasibility analysis for the last flow trail was terrain is steeper and rockier, will require more extreme measures to create trails such as blasting and big bulldozers. So it doesn't seem that terrain is suitable for a flow trail to get down to the bottom of the canyon. And it says county-owned land is not conducive to a 7-mile or family-friendly flow trail due to terrain challenges. That's what happened last time. So I'm not sure why it's coming up again. Don't we believe the people that did it last time? It also says the results, considerations, flow trails require constant maintenance. It says if Los Alamos is aiming to cater to beginning terrain, green, family friendly, building a flow trail down county-owned canyons is not appropriate. So what happened to this study that was already done, county already paid for, and it seems like we're doing it again? Another thing from that study was that they suggested developing a master plan of all biking trails and amenities with priority rankings and cost estimates. Was that ever done? And if so, why not? That seems like the way to start and not revisit the same thing we did again. To my mind, Pueblo Canyon is a very small area. I walk down there, God, almost every day. Been mountain biking since the early 80s. So I kind of know about mountain biking. And from my walking down there in Pueblo Canyon, the big problem down there is the small area and the amount of conflicts you're going to have between bikers and walkers. Walkers being runners, walking, dog walkers, anybody that's down there not on a mountain bike is in danger. And I can go through at least 3 times when I had to leave the trail because the mountain bikers, either one or many, were not going to stop for me. We're not going to give me the right of way, even though they came right past a sign that says mountain bikers should yield to pedestrians and equestrians. So I think the problem is there is conflicts, and it's not a large area. There's not a lot of trail space. And if you're going to remove the pedestrians from that area, then the conflicts go away with pedestrians, but they don't go away with the wildlife. And there's lots of wildlife down there. There's lots of deer. We see 5, 6 deer every day. I'm down there now. I see them because they can't go anyplace else. We've built them out of their natural habitats. There's bear down there. There's a cougar that's down there sometimes. There's fox and skunk. And of course, there's the birds and the birding people. And so my problem is, have we really looked at Los Alamos, or are you, the people doing the studies, are you really going to look at the conflicts and the area that's down there? I know from being in Colorado a lot biking, there's a lot more area, and Colorado makes use of ski areas and areas adjacent to ski areas to lower the conflicts because they have a lot more area. Skills parks, look at Breckenridge. Breckenridge built a skills park not on a small area like you're talking about. They built a skills park on the ski area. So why aren't we using Pajarito for a skills area? Why aren't we using Pajarito trails for a national or whatever they call it? I don't know. You have some name for them. I don't know I don't understand the name, but it's the high school type trails. And high school type trails are fine. They're like any trails. They're going to be used for a while, but they're not going to be used every day. They're not the place to train on all the time. They're just a place for an event. An event needs parking, needs camping. Boy, that sounds a lot like a Pajarito parking lot to me for all that. Pajarito is a perfect place for such an event. So why are we trying to build something in the canyon? Looking at the space you've set aside for the skills area, that's pretty small compared to what other skills parks I've seen, at least in Frisco and Breckenridge, Colorado. In Breckenridge, they built a similar small area skills park, got a lot of hoopla for about a year. After that, no one went there because it was too small, and it just disappeared because no one cared about it until someone started building bigger ones. So this to me is like deja vu. We haven't learned from the past. Why aren't we using the past information that we have? Why aren't we making use of Pajarito? Because a lot of the good things that we need for bike trails are right there. And a lot of the good things we need for a bike competition, trails, mountain bike competition for the youth is right up there. So where does the study looking at our existing trails before we put in more trails? Where was the study that actually expanded out beyond just county land and started looking at Pajarito land? Because I'm dumbfounded with this.
To answer a couple of your questions, sir. Number one, this is not a flow trail.
She said it was a flow trail. They used the word flow trail when they started here.
Okay, but this conceptual trail that's going on now is not a flow trail.
All right, where does a conceptual trail get to the bottom of Pueblo Canyon? Is it going down an existing trail, which is narrow? Are you making a new trail into Pueblo Canyon?
That's part of this conversation, is to align a trail that we can do it using existing trail. There may be sections that are new. The second point is these are county funds and they cannot be used on Pajarito Mountain because it's a private entity.
Well, maybe Pajarito Mountain will gladly bring people in for a big event of a mountain biking event like they do for other events. Why do we have to use county funds to duplicate something that's better off somewhere else? There is already a trail down into Pueblo Canyon from the other side, not from the walk-up center. There's already a mountain bike trail down in there. There's already, as was mentioned, there's already trails from North Mesa over to the walk-up center that you can mountain bike on or walk on. There's already beginner trails in Los Alamos County, green and blue trails for riding. Like, why are we trying to use up money to duplicate something we have? Why not do something that we don't have?
Thank you for your comments, sir. Let's hear from some of the other panelists here, and we'll not circle back to you. Mr. Warren, you're next.
Muted.
I have to, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. I have to agree with Morgan and whoever was representing Cheryl. Not sure who that was, but the idea of new trails in the canyons, I think, is a poor one. What really needs to happen in this county is to maintain the existing trails. One of the great advantages of living in Los Alamos is that within a few minutes walk from almost anywhere, you can be walking in a canyon or on a mountain that is like completely removed from an urban situation. Quiet, wildlife, everything there, beautiful scenery. In fact, national park quality scenery in some places. I can't see why we need to bring the urban environment down into that, or up, either case, into that environment. So I would be against any new trails. The bike park, I'm kind of with the previous commentator that these things, they're like these zombie ideas that keep coming back in Los Alamos. And you may not call it a flow trail, but if you think it's going to be an easy trail, that's not going to happen without a lot of construction, a lot of earth moving, much like a flow trail, because the elevation drops just too much to get down in the bottom of the canyon to make an easy trail. It just can't happen without a lot of switchbacks and a lot of trail cutting. So that's a problem with that kind of a trail. And I agree that the trail from Townside across to North Mesa already exists, and you have a choice. You can go down in the canyon or you can go across the high bridge. I live, by the way, on the trailhead for Homestead Crossing. My house backs on it. So I'm in the canyon almost every day in Pueblo Canyon and its tributaries. And I would hate to see that become some kind of an area where you lose the feeling of nature. The bike park, that's been an idea that's been knocking around. That was in 2013 that the county commissioned the report. And that was, I think, originally going to be where the old sewage plant was, which the county spent a great deal of money tearing down. And now that finally has become a beautiful mountain meadow kind of area, quiet, nice. And I don't, from the Claudia's pictures, I didn't think that's where you're talking about. It was a little hard to tell from the maps. It looked like you were talking about up below Kinnickinnick and within the Acid Canyon Loop Trail. I don't know that that's a much better area for it, but certainly it's better than the bottom of Pueblo Canyon down by the high bridge, because that is a crossroads for anybody who wants to go across the canyon. It's a connector for all those trails, Walnut Canyon Trail, all of them. A very bad place to have the unsightliness and the noise of a bike park. I'm not sure I see the reason for a bike park when the trails that are already existing offer all kinds of natural features from beginning to expert that can challenge any bicycle rider. I both ride and walk in the canyons, mountain bike. And there are places I can't go because I'm not good enough. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't think I ought to be able to have easy trails everywhere for me. I go where I can, and that's where I go. And I like to leave the other trails to the people who can handle them. So I would really push for, instead of building new trails, maintain, I know this is boring. Maintenance is always a boring topic compared to let's build something new. But what you need in this county is maintenance of the existing trails. They're in pretty bad shape, eroded. They really need work. The bridges, the boards on the bridges are warped and wearing out. You need to put the money into maintenance of what we got, which is an amazing trail system. So I would just make that, I have nothing against urban trails. I love the Los Alamos Rim Trail, the Canyon Rim Trail there. I think that's great for the town. It's paved, you know, anybody can go there, but I don't think you want to bring that kind of thing down into the canyon. So even if it isn't paved, you know, what we have is great. Let's maintain it. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Schoen or Scone. I'm sorry, SCHON. I'm sorry, I botched that.
Okay. Am I here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to follow up on the archaeological issues. I think that, you know, previous people who mentioned things were all talking about Pueblo and archaeological sites, and those are in fact in need of constant protection. But in the bottom of the canyon as well, there are archaeological sites having to do with Project Y, the Manhattan Project, as well as, of course, the Homestead Crossing has the name Homestead in it. And there's a reason for that, because that's the era that those trails represent. And it's impossible for me to tell from the conceptual map that was shown, but it looks as if new trails could come very, very close to Project Y sites that have barely even been studied. So at the very least, this kind of study would need to be done before any disturbance is started in the canyon. Thanks.
Okay, Morgan, you were next, and then Chris.
Okay, I just wanted to also comment on the Spike Skills Park. So I am very concerned about how that might impact just the natural setting of those areas and how they feel. I have basically grown up and spent my childhood in those areas in Acid Canyon and Pueblo, right behind the old Peak Center there. If it can be done without removing that, which might be difficult, I guess I could understand it, but it'd have to be very, very careful. I can see some, I should preface this by saying I'm a senior in high school, but I can see some people in high school maybe using it, and we have a mountain biking club here that is small, but it's definitely there, and it would be good to have a place for them to practice that's right next to the school. But again, it's a small area, and it'd be very, very easy to go wrong. I'd also just like to point out very quickly that there are a lot more trails in the canyon than these maps might have believed, because people have gone and made their own. So any analysis of this area should include those unofficial trails, because some of them are actually pretty heavily traveled, and that might just be a wise thing to keep in mind.
Thank you. Okay, Chris.
Just a couple of things. I wanted to say, I think this looks good, and there's a lot of debate on other things that we should spend our money on, but I don't think this has to be an either or. You know, we can have trails up at Pajarito. We can have trails. We can maintain the trails we have and build a new trail. As I mentioned in the chat, we have someone who's full time supposed to be maintaining our trails. That's Eric. Then the other one bit of constructive feedback that I had for what you have there is one thing you may not see when you're looking at these things on a map is that the whole area basically that whole canyon smells bad. So it's something to keep in mind in terms of camping and Oh yeah, we call it the Tour de Sewer because it stinks pretty much the whole way down. And the county sets out piles of whatever you call it, the manure basically, and dries it in the sun. So it can get pretty smelly down there. But that was it.
Thank you. All right, who's next? Ms. Bond.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have lived on the offshoot of the canyon for 30 years. And many of us on this chat group have. And I, first of all, would like to know how many of the actual residents on the canyon have been canvassed, or I know we have this opportunity to speak, but there are many of us who are stakeholders, regular users, Larry, Bruce, many more of us. And it does affect us. You know, we have to live with the crowds if we get them, the litter. All of us constantly pick up litter from the other trail users. The wildlife seriously affected, the fauna as well, the flora and fauna are both. And frankly, it's a safety hazard for the users themselves. You know, they hit a deer and they are toast. They can well be. I've had a friend who hit a deer on a bicycle. It's not pretty. So many concerns. I'm not against using the trails, and I'm not against bikers using the trails. I am a mountain biker myself. I love it. But let's make some sensible choices about where we put them. And I don't think doing a residential type area is the place to do it. And, you know, many of us use those trails. And I know Morgan talked about, and Bruce, about there's already a way to get across, and we use it. Those of us who know, we use it. So that seems not well placed as far as an idea goes. Yeah, I don't, if it's not a flow trail, what exactly is it? Because that term was used at the start of this. And what is SHPO, and when is this a done deal? And what can we do to have a lot more input besides this talk and public meeting? Thanks.
Anyone else? Neil.
Hey guys, just so you know who I am, I build by hand with volunteers all the trails at Pajarito. I'd love to do more up there, but it's just not plausible. It's not county land. It has a much shorter season. This meeting really should be about how to build the best trail, and we've been through this for years and years with county council meetings and everything. It seems like we just get a bunch of people that don't want any changes in this town. This isn't big change. This is trying to make easier trails. Our trails are the hardest trails in the country. I bike everywhere, all over Colorado, and everything we have is just old chunky trails. I love them. I'm a good technical rider, but for kids, I hope I have grandkids that can ride them someday. We're trying to get something easier, something better for people out of town, people that are trying to come into the lab, you know, attract better people to come into our town. This is what we're after. I'd like to get back to what this is really about recommendations on trails. As far as the skills park area goes, I sort of prefer the Orange Street area just because it's a lot. There's a parking area that you could have that you can drive right up to the trailhead. It's a place where you can have kids, you know, little flow tracks and pump tracks and things like that. The area below the aquatic center, no matter what, you're gonna have to go down a steep hill. And I think that's, you know, it's fine for a lot of people, but not as good for the younger crowd. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And I'm available for you guys that are working on this. And I know the trails as much as anybody around here, and how to build trails. Not the easy stuff, because I don't have machinery and I do this part-time in the evenings, but I'd be happy to help you guys out for consulting or just walking stuff and ideas that me and a lot of the other mountain bikers have.
All right, we got, sorry again, SCHON. I'm sorry, I didn't catch how you pronounced that last time.
Yeah, this time it's Mike, who's the other half of Sean.
Okay.
we use trails. We love trails. I don't mountain bike anymore because of an accident, but I worry about making major changes to an area based on what's popular today and that we have to live with them. And I'd like to take you back 25 years ago when every kid in town was going to be rescued from juvenile delinquency if we built a BMX track. And we have a BMX track, and I'd invite any of you to come out to North Mesa and look at it. I don't think it was ever really used. My daughter and I used to use it to ride on when it was weed infested. She's 28 now, and we probably rode it when she was 8. So that gives you an idea. I think 2 years ago, there were a bunch of bulldozers out there that bulldozed it all up, and now it's a big weed pile. So we made major changes on North Mesa. That's now a real eyesore based on something that was the fad for kids at the time. And I think we really need to be careful about making major changes about things that we may regret later. And I wouldn't mind if you guys would do something about cleaning up the BMX track, if you even have an idea what that is. It's out near the tennis court on North Mesa. I took pictures the other day that I'd be happy to send to you. It's an eyesore. And it wasn't maintained. I mean, you say you're going to maintain these trails, but 12 years from now, when nobody knows what a flow trail is, who's going to maintain these trails? Who's going to be the advocates to maintain these trails? Or are they just going to turn to weeds like the BMX track? So thank you.
Morgan, and then back to Chris.
Yeah, there was.
I'd just like to comment on ideas. I guess I haven't heard many others saying. I know you mentioned at the start a horse trail, an equestrian trail down Bio Canyon. That one might also somewhat exist, but have severely degraded with time. I know my father used to ride horses down that area, used them for that. And I thought I'd say that the idea of the Nike trail down by very bottom of Pueblo Canyon, like by where the new sewage plant is, if it can be done well, I think that would actually be a good idea, and it would certainly be used by the high school cross country team on a very regular basis, even if the bikers didn't use it. We have a lot of practices down there. So that one might actually be a plausible idea that I think could be done.
All right, Chris, back to you.
Just quickly, I have heard, so I am not a BMXer, but I've heard that there's a reason that trail doesn't get used, and it wasn't because it wasn't popular. So I don't want that idea to be misrepresented. But more so, my understanding of what you all are building here is essentially this is going to be a multi-user trail that can be used for NICA races. Is that correct? Or
That's the desire, is to have multiple uses on it.
okay, so this is not strictly a mountain bike trail, just for clarification.
That's correct.
Okay.
But like everyone has indicated, we do have to be thoughtful and manage conflicts.
Yes.
Really? All right, I guess it's Cheryl, I saw you pop up. So Cheryl, back to you.
Yeah, could you define what a NICA trail is?
It's a 2 to 3 mile loop that has, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it has passing lanes. It's got to have, and I forget the amount of slope, but it's got to be not as extreme as some of our upper trails are. But we can post those credentials on the project webpage so you guys can look at them.
So from the original presentation, it looked like the NICA trail was down at the bottom of Pueblo Canyon near where the old, near where the septic, the sewage treatment plant is now. Is that correct or not?
Correct. That's what the consultant has identified as the highest priority at this point, or
Okay.
best use, I guess.
Part of it with the NICA is, like Corey mentioned, is the passing lanes. There's kind of, in order to be part of the on the race circuit, the loops have to meet certain criteria. One of them is emergency vehicle access. So that's where reusing or using portions of the road that already exists down in the canyon on that side. will be useful for that purpose.
So that's a very different spot from where you're talking about putting a skills park. Is that correct?
Correct, yes, the
So
skills
the
park.
two places, I'm very familiar with the two places where you've outlined skills park. Neither of those are right next to a parking lot. Both of those, you're gonna have to go down a somewhat steep hill. Either, both of them you can get to by road, existing road, but they're not right at the top of the canyon. You're gonna have to go down an area to get to those. So neither of those are super kid friendly if the kids can't ride a bike. So they're both the same as far as being friendly, except one of them by the Connect Park has a lot more parking close to it than the Orange Street one. The Orange Street one is very narrow. So it's, again, it's conflicts because you're gonna have people coming down roads to get to either one of those. So there's conflicts between walkers, runners, and those, and you're gonna have to deal with that. That's all. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments, ideas, concerns?
Yeah, hi. First of all, I'd like to commend Morgan for joining as a high school representative. So kudos to you, sir, for stepping up and having your voice heard. I apologize, I wasn't here for the first part of the meeting. Are the maps that you're proposing, are they out distributed somewhere that you look at?
So just because you came in later, I just want to clarify, we are showing maps only of existing conditions. We're going to be holding a public meeting in March where we'll be presenting conceptual alignments of the trails and conceptual designs of the skills park areas.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
And then this meeting and the previous couple of meetings are posted on the county webpage when you first go to it. If you'll go over to the right, there's a county projects tab under community services. The focus groups from Monday are already up there, so you can see the maps that she used as talking points for us to jump off from. They're there, as well as the closed captions. And then tomorrow we'll have the actual text chat up there as well from those meetings as well. So you can keep apprised of it there. All right, Morgan, it's back to you.
I just wanted to quickly say, Claudia Horn, I zoomed in on the map when you had it. That's, at least, it's this map of existing conditions, but on the existing trails, it's very incomplete because of the sheer quantity of unofficial trails, some of which are somewhat maintained by people who use them. So I just would recommend that you guys go out and hike them and map those too while considering this. Just a suggestion.
Thanks, Morgan. Yeah, that's where I think with the drone footage, we can see all of that because of the level of detail that it picked up. But thanks.
So as Claudia indicated, this is the first of at least 2 or 3 meetings. We're trying to get the concerns from people and the things they like, and they're going to go back to the drawing board and see if they can address all of these concerns from the various users. In March, we'll come back and we'll get to see what their couple of concepts are and have a conversation about what do we need to adjust and tweak. I know it's a little difficult to, what I call, have a conversation on white paper is we got this idea and, oh, by the way, We thank you all for your thoughts and comments, and really appreciation for the differing point of views that we've heard in these meetings. Again, this data is on the county website. If you want to go back and see what the other two meetings have said, that's there. This is kind of come about from several things that have been hanging around for a while. There was a ride center proposed for Pueblo Mountain several years ago when the county was looking at buying that. When that was purchased privately, that funding couldn't be used for that. There was a pretty big push to have a flow trail in this community. Had a lot of conversations about it in Bio Canyon, and those that have been around a while, that was not an option. Kind of left Pueblo Canyon as really the only option if we're going to do an in-town set of additional trails. Again, this is conceptual. We may find out that a couple of the ideas are not feasible, and we'll have to go back to the driving board. But it's really designed from trying to figure out how to make that longer trail in town, provide something for our youth, especially this group of youth that are participating in what a lot of people would consider an alternate sport. It's also a lifelong sport, as many of you know. So again, we're just trying to do something from the community that's kind of been pieced together over the years and look at it under one hat, and definitely want to take your feedback and come back. There's not a timeline to build this by next June. Another process of this would be when we kind of reach consensus on some stuff, we'll prioritize it, and then we'll have to go back to council for the actual funding to construct it. So there's several more off ramps and several more things to do, but it is something that we've picked up on the community wanting, and we just tried to package it up and figure out what to do with it. So we've got about 5 more minutes. Does anybody have any final thoughts? Claudia or Patrick, do you have anything specifically you want to ask or get clarification from this group on?
One thing that I did want to maybe point out is that in designing a skills park, the concept is that it's a bounded area, so most likely it would be fenced, and the trail that runs in the canyon would be on the outside of that, so that there's no conflict there between people who are using the bike skills park. In fact, it's important that at each entry point to the bike skills park, there's signage so that it's very clear that you're entering something that requires or has a certain level of risk and has these features in it. So that's something that that we'll make sure is very clear conceptually. But I think this has been good. It's interesting the feedback, and so we'll certainly keep all of your comments in mind as we continue our site analysis and come up with some conceptual ideas. If you're interested in weighing in on the Bike Skills Park, let us know if you want to take that survey. And if there are any further thoughts that you have, please email us and we'll include that information and consider that as we move forward. And I guess maybe another thing too, because this is something that we haven't really heard about too much, is are there specific amenities that you see that's needed as part of the trail system? I know we've been focusing mainly on the trails, But that's something that would be good to get feedback on.
Neil, go ahead.
If you look around at all our trails, you can hardly find a berm or a bump or anything that you'd see in typical trails, places like Salida, Colorado, like Sedona, a lot of the places in Colorado that were mentioned. It'd be awesome to have trails that, even though this isn't a flow trail, they just have trails that are smoother, easier to ride, that kind of make you feel good while you're riding. So that's a big feature that we're lacking big time here. We're finally getting one flow trail at Pajarito, by the way. I had to beg the owner to pay for it because they really don't make any money up there. But they're paying a small crew to build one of the trails into a flow trail, which is going to be awesome. But it's that's only for riding bike park, and it's only been one trail out of a big mountain. One comment I'd like to make about the skills park, of what reasons we need it so bad, is because kids get bored and they want to have fun, and they'll build stuff rogue. I mean, that's what's going to happen if we don't do something like this soon. And you look around places like the entrance of Bio Canyon, and there's all kinds of jumps and stuff that people build. They don't build them very safely. They don't maintain them. That's why we desperately need a central area, especially for younger kids and families to go to, that have, professionally built trails. And I know the county has the budget to maintain them. They've hired people. They just don't have the knowledge of how to build them. And that's why they need to bring in people like you. So I think there's a big advantage from those points of view. I think if you have a nice park that a lot of people can ride in, you're going to have a lot less of the rogue stuff around town.
All right, Morgan, I think you're going to have the last word.
I just thought I'd speak for at least those in my generation. I don't think the bikers and mountain bikers are the people you have to be worried about going and building dangerous things very much. Usually they are trying to be careful. And generally the people who do it are much more so the rule following type in this town. It's not so much the case in other towns so much, but it's very much so the case in Los Alamos, at least everyone that I've seen. And I guess that's just my thought on that from what I've seen.
Okay, thanks. All right, again, if you guys wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, oh man, I wish I would have said that or thought that, please send me an email, send Linda an email. She had you the link. We'll get this info to Claudia. We had a couple of people from Monday that do that. If you think of next week, you're out and about walking in the area and you go, oh man, we need to bring this up. Send us an email and we'll get it forward to them, and we'll kind of see what they come back with in March and see how well we were able to address everyone's concern and have something that our entire community can enjoy and be proud of. Thanks again so much for attending. I appreciate your time. Enjoy your evening and be safe.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.